Hello, hello. Welcome to another amazing episode of Northern Lights Podcast. I'm your host, Shayna, joined by my co-host,
Marcus Harkis.
Yeah, really excited today to have an amazing guest, Dr. Clemon Dabney, also known as Dr. Dabs. So just wanted to, first, since this is your first time on the show, we'd love to know more about you. Tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to the Minnesota cannabis industry.
Cool, yeah. So, I'm Clemon, or Doc Dabs. My background is I'm a Minnesotan born and raised. Did my undergrad, master's, and PhD here. My master's was in plant breeding and molecular genetics, and my PhD was in cannabis molecular genetics and genomics. I've been growing cannabis since I was 16, down by the river and other places from there on out. I guess how I got introduced to cannabis was during my master's. I was the vice president of the horticulture club. In that capacity, I invited Dr. George Weibland to come speak and give a seminar about cannabis genetics to the horticulture club. We kind of hit it off after his talk, and he made a comment where he was like, I wouldn't invite anybody to work for me if they wanted to study cannabis, and I snarkily replied, if I ever worked for you, that's all I'd want to do.
That's amazing.
So,
Shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired, but the shots worked. So I was about to finish my master's up, and then he shot me an email and was like, I got some funding. Do you want to come work on a PhD in cannabis with me? And I wrote a white paper, pitched my proposal to him, and the rest is history.
Nice.
So talking about history, I guess this is very unique in terms of that type of degree. I know that you attended the U of Minnesota and things like that, and you kind of talked about that. So just talk a little bit about that in terms of if people were interested in pursuing that type of degree, what type of background would you suggest for them to pursue in terms of preparing them for that?
So my undergrad was actually in neuroscience. Mm-hmm. So I used to raise rats and then harvest their brains. And harvesting plants for data is a lot easier.
Hungry.
But yeah, so I think all you really need to have to get in the plant sciences is a science background. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you necessarily have to have a horticulture degree or a plant science degree in undergrad. You just need to take most of your basic science classes, and at the time they required the GRE. But my department no longer requires that. So I guess, and you kind of also have to create your own field of study. So so I was in the College of Biological Sciences in the Plant and Microbial Biology department. And so it's not like there is a cannabis molecular genetics and genomics track. So in my cohort, there's a woman who studied the maize epigenome, and a guy who studied tropical dry forests in Mexico, Costa Rica, I think Colombia, Puerto Rico, and then there was another guy who did genetic transformation of soybean. So it's kind of if you want to get into something like this, I think you just have to know what you want and have to be able to build that program out and make sure to take the right classes and put the right people on your committee. And it was a lot of building it from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're Dr. Dabs. Do you think that your trajectory would have been much different if you hadn't pursued the doctorate, the highest level of education with this?
I think
in terms of cannabis space.
I think definitely. I guess I would always have been interested in the cannabis, but I think that the doctorate gave me a lot of cool experiences to work on a wide range of things relating to cannabis. So, we did a field variety trial. Where we studied how well grain hemp yields in 5 different locations around the state: White Earth, Crookston Morris, St. Paul campus, and Rosemount. I got to work with the drug section of cannabis. So the U of M, Dr. George Weibland has a DEA license, or Memorandum of Understanding with DEA, to study cannabis, and has for about 20 years now. So I got to work on projects relating to drug cannabis and hemp. And I think that all these experiences kind of geared me to kind of understand the cannabis market holistically. Mm-hmm. I understand how to grow and process and understand the businesses of hemp businesses, from fiber, grain, and drug cannabis.
I'm just gonna say this without naming names, but I remember there was a guy who has a lot of background in cannabis cultivation, and he was kind of expressing jealousy, like I could do everything he can do. He's just got a degree. I mean,
Oh wow, hater.
how do you feel about like people looking at you sideways because you're more academic with it?
I think that in any field you go in, or in any way of life, I think there's always going to be some amount of jealousy.
Facts.
I also think that there's people that can grow better than me. So I don't think that I'm like, I know everything and I'm like the all-knowing, all-seeing eye of cannabis. But I do think that the PhD, I guess a master's and a PhD allows you to at least understand something. You basically have to set up a research plan. You have to be able to, utilize your resources at hand to accomplish a goal. You have to be able to communicate your results to the greater community. So I think that like doing a PhD or a master's just allows you to get, we'll call them XP points in whatever you're interested in. So I think that being that I have an educational background, it ensured that I was doing the things I was supposed to do. I've created a research focus. I had to defend it to my committee in an oral and written prelim. So for people who don't know, like an oral prelim is you create a committee for a PhD, and it's like basically 4 of the smartest people you've ever met, and they have 4 very different backgrounds, and they're the smartest in their field, and you sit there 4.5 hours and get grilled by them, and you have to be able to answer or explain why you don't know what they're asking you. So I think it's like, I think that the academic side just means I put in the time and it's accredited.
It definitely makes you a more intense learner.
Yeah, it does.
Well, we wanted to learn about your business, Doc Dab's Healthy Highs, and then talk about the A&D genetics.
Cool.
Can you tell us about your cannabis businesses?
So I've had I operate Dr. Dab's. So Dr. Dab's Healthy Highs, we make maple candies, maple sugar, various different seasonings, THC seasonings, salve. We had a maple soda for a second that we hope to bring back. But yeah, we've won the 2022 Legacy Cup THC's Most Innovative Product and the 2023
Yeah, that's
CBD's
amazing.
Most Innovative Product. Thank you for our nighttime tea and the maple candies for the THC award. So we just kind of like try to make innovative edibles that people aren't really making. And a lot of the maple stuff kind of like falls back on, I've owned and operated, and it still's out there. So if you're ever at the Richfield Farmers Market or Nokomis, or we do a couple other places that are escaping my mind right now, but look out for a company called Minnesota Food Forest. That's kind of where I got my start with small business. I remember that, I've known Marcus for like a decade now. And, remember when we were at it was at the time, it was my grandmother's house inoculating mushroom logs.
Yeah, shiitakes.
Yeah. So it's like the small business entrepreneurship kind of starts from there. It's like I wanted to grow mushrooms on logs, and I found a property, bought it, then realized the property had a bunch of maple trees, and I'm like, man, I got to figure out how to collect maple syrup. So then I made this tube system. I watched every YouTube video on like making maple tube systems, which at the time there weren't that many. So it was a lot of trial and error, and I probably put down like 8 miles of tubing. And yeah, so like, so that kind of like the love for maple and love for cannabis kind of intertwined in a lot of my Doc Dab's products. So we do like little packets of maple syrup, the maple sugar, the maple candies. If I ever figure out how to do it, or they change the laws a little bit, there'll be some maple cream. But yeah, so I guess that's a little bit about the Dr. Dab's. Let's talk about, I guess, Alt Dabs or Alt Dabney or A&D Genetics. So that's kind of the brainchild of me and Mason Alt. So he's the CEO over at Retro Bakery Uniflora Holistics. So Uniflora Holistics is like a company that owns Retro Bakery and Love is an Ingredient. So Retro Bakery is like a manufacturing and wholesaling Cannabis Edibles Company, and Love is an Ingredient is a chain of retail and brick and mortar stores. Mason and me both have, I guess we'll call it, extensive backgrounds cultivating cannabis. Mason's ideas are very largely rooted in cultivation, and my ideas are largely rooted in genetics. So I think it was like it's a great partnership, and kind of the brainchild of both of our strengths. So like we're thinking about, what traits are best for home growers and producers, and then my background is, how do we scientifically prove that these traits are in our cultivars? So I guess one of the benefits of if you want to buy some seed and grow it outside or indoors of choosing A&D genetics is that not only do we use traditional breeding methods, but we also use a lot of conventional breeding methods such as marker-assisted selection. So we use markers to ensure that we are producing high-quality cultivars for sale on the Minnesota marketplace. So like if you want to think of like what is marker-assisted selection, so like Honeycrisp and a lot of the modern apple cultivars are bred this way. So it's often done in tree breeding because it takes so long to figure out if you did something right or not. But so you're making sure that both parents have the traits of interest. So you want crunchiness, you want sweetness, you want disease resistance, and you're making sure both parents have them so the offspring have the traits of interest.
So talking about genetic lines, and we know that you're here in amazing Dabbler Depot, and we know right now that there are limits in Minnesota in terms of what you can grow at home. Why would someone choose your seeds over anyone else's?
I think they choose our seeds because we are actually thinking about it in a breeding fashion. So we're using markers, which I think is probably makes us one of very few companies in the United States that does this. And we're definitely the only company in Minnesota that's doing this. So you would choose our seeds because you know that they're going to be good. You know that they have, large gland size. You know that they have high percent THC. You know that they have the bag appeal trait. You know that they're going to be loud.
Yeah.
And we offer a wide range of different cultivars. Some good for hashing, some good for washing, some good for fresh flower. Pretty quick here, we're going to have a line of feminized seeds for those who are going to be growing outdoors. So I think you would choose us because I guess we have a track record of we'll call it excellence.
Yes, I love it. And so switching to that in terms of learning from you and why we should select you, and we always choose you, and coming up in March, you'll be teaching our class. So without spilling all of the beans, tell us a little bit more about why they should come on out and take the class with us.
So I think you guys should come out and check out this class. I think it's called Growing Big Plants.
Big plants, not the little ones.
Not the little ones. But here's a little secret. If you come out to our class and you follow what you're going to learn there, you're gonna quickly run into your possession limits at home or exceed those, which I think that allows you to gift more cannabis to your friends and family. But basically, we're going to talk about different training methods. We're going to give you guys a schedule on when to prune and defoliate. What is pruning? What is defoliating? Right. When should you do it? Different methods, different media methods you could use. Living soils versus coco coir, different fertilizer. Kind of just the background on how to increase your yield as a home grower and producer.
Do you enjoy teaching?
I actually do. I do in cannabis. I guess and some other things. I had to teach Minnesota flora at the University of Minnesota, and that was a cool class. I think at the beginning of my PhD career, let's just say I wasn't super amped to teach or had much interest in it or passion for it. Like teaching a intro level bio class to a bunch of kids that want to be pre-med wasn't really my jam. But teaching a Minnesota flora class where the people are actually interested in the topic and they're not just trying to argue over grades. And I think I like teaching things I'm passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely.
To students who are passionate about learning. Huh?
Exactly, yeah. And people who are open-minded. And I think that's the one nice thing about the cannabis space is I think this space tends to have a little less ego. There's definitely some egos out there. But there tends to be people who are open-minded and people who are go-getters, because I think this industry, since it's from the black market, is just filled with people who are go-getters and who are open to learning new things and who are seekers of knowledge. So I think I like teaching to the people interested in cannabis, because they're interested in it. They want to be there. And in this case, they're paying to be there. So
Right.
I mean, we're at this point before dispensaries are, licensed and open for business, like, adult use cannabis market. And the OCM recently said like 25% of cannabis consumers in Minnesota are doing home growing right now.
That's a nice number.
I mean, that's a good market for A&D genetics,
Right.
But like, how do you think the Minnesota market will differ from the states that have gone before us in terms of full legalization?
I guess that home grower, I'm just curious. It's hard to say, because the landscape I don't think is yet solidified.
Right.
Because I think if this caregiver thing, I think the caregiver bill could kind of upend a lot of different things and change the marketplace as we see it. Because I think that the power of this caregiver bill is that it would empower those folks. Because right now, without any changes in the bill, you have to have a space rented out, right?
Right.
So it's like a TTB license. It's like a liquor license. Like if you wanted to open a brewery today as like a small business person, you have to rent out that space until the federal government gives you your license. It's like, what average person is sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital that they can just hemorrhage? So I think the power in this caregiver bill is going to empower, if it does pass, it empowers like people from the black market, empowers small business people to be able to create businesses from their own homes.
Right.
And 96 plants, if you're doing it right, you can yield a lot. 96 plants. So you could have yourself this a large sustainable business from home. And in today's day and age, with people with kids, childcare is super expensive. I think that more and more people being able to have home businesses is incredibly beautiful and powerful. So I think that the landscape isn't completely proven and solidified yet. So if the caregiver bill passes, I think we'll have an incredibly vibrant craft cannabis market space. But if it doesn't, you're going to have a lot of businesses that can prove proof of funds, that have a space that they can just sit on until they get a license, and likely will lack in diversity, because in Minnesota we're like the nation's capital of gaps, wealth gap,
absolutely.
education gap. So it's like, how many people of color are going to be able to show that they got $1 million in the bank and have this beautiful space rented out? That's probably a small number.
And that's a great segue. Let's kind of talk about, in terms of the disparities, what piece of advice, maybe top 3 things that you would give to people of color who are interested in pursuing a business or wanting to like launch their own products or any type of alternatives in the cannabis industry?
I guess my greatest piece of advice is just do it. I think that's what sets a lot of these companies apart. Is just like people who are just going to get it. I think that if you put the time in, you put the effort in, you put your passion in, people see that. And that's something that they can connect with. And there's lots of cool people of color own cannabis businesses. You got Angela Dawson's, you got Leckers with the lemonades, and you've got Anthony over at Cultivated, and there's a large number of them I'm missing, and I apologize for all the others that I missed.
Natty Cakes.
Yeah,
Natty Cakes.
Shout out to all of them.
Natty
Amazing.
Cakes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that there's a lot out there, and I think that as long as you're passionate about it and you go get it, and just make sure to do everything that is important for a business, is that marketing your product, networking with everybody in the industry, making sure to check out the various different distributors. I think if you want to scale your product up and you maybe don't have that sales arm, just check out what your distribution options are. Is it Granite City? Is it any of the other number of distributors? Just do your research and make a good product and be passionate about it and be able to communicate why your product is different in the market space and why it's important and why people should buy it. I think those are kind of some of the keys to success.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, I've got a controversial question.
Uh-oh.
So a lot of people know, and we reported here on the Northern Lights podcast, that you had gone for the director position at the Office of Cannabis Management.
Dun, dun.
Are you willing or able to talk about that experience?
Yeah, sure. What do you want?
I mean, like, where do I start?
I'll talk about it from my.
Yeah.
So I applied. I got the first interview. So the interviews basically they did it in a panel style. I went down to the Capitol. I think this would be the DNR building. Oh no, MDA, Minnesota Department of Ag building. So it was like Charlene Breiner organizing the interviews. So the first interview was basically like a panel style. They just kind of went clockwise. Asking, relevant questions to why would you apply and what makes you a strong applicant for the OCM position. I guess I passed the first interview, got the second interview, very same format, passed that one, got the third and final interview with the governor and his team. So I heard I was runner-up for it to a candidate that had to resign within 24 hours.
Ooh, drama.
Shots fired.
Ooh, getting a little spicy.
So yeah, and I think that if we want to keep spicing it up, I don't know.
We like spice around here. Spice it up.
I'm the beans and spicing the coffee.
I don't exactly understand how they made such a mistake. So
Do you think there was some nepotism in there?
I'm not gonna point fingers or whatever, but I think something was going on because you have here I'll give some more background. So the background check was probably over 100 pages and 4 to 6 different packets.
Wow.
So I had to research myself.
Googling yourself?
I had to Google Maps.
Who am I?
So I had to come up with every place I'd ever lived since 18.
Wow.
So I did. Since I was 18, I'm 36 now, and in my college years, I just kept moving around. I'd do a lease for a year, and then I'd get a new spot, and I'd check out different neighborhoods in the Twin Cities. And it's I had to Google Maps Street View. I was like, oh, I know I live by Sporty's, but Sporty's doesn't exist anymore. It's like the Como Tap House or whatever. So I'm going down Google Maps Street View, which house was I living in at this point in time, and then I had to figure out when in time. There was just so much. They knew anything I had debts, any assets I owned. It was incredible. They know everything about my life. They know that how many 4-wheelers I have, how many vehicles I have, where all my properties are. Then not only that, they had a guy come interview me, open carry special. He was a Bureau of Criminal Apprehension special agent.
Right,
so basically our FBI CIA dude in my house grilling me about these packets, going through my business websites, my social media, asking me about. So we were under the student loan pause or whatever. And Navient had taken one of my loans to collections, and they were sending me mail, and I was like, "This is on pause." So I thought it was junk garbage or whatever.
Right.
I was like, "They're trying to
scam.
They're trying to scam me or whatever," but they weren't, because all my other loans are under Advantage, so I was just confused. But they knew about that for me that I owed Navient some money. There's just so many questions on. Yeah, and this guy went and interviewed all my neighbors. He was just gun on his hip interviewing my neighbors about me. Called up all my former employers, my girlfriend, my friends, the mother of my child. This background check was incredibly thorough.
And with that level of thoroughness, it makes you wonder, how did they miss some of the things that just the general public discovered about this person?
It's wild, because we went through my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, my business webpage, looking at my products, watching stuff that I created. So it's how did they miss this? And how the public figured it out in just a couple hours was kind of mind blowing.
Tanner.
So I got my seeds. You ready to grow some big plants?
I am.
Do you have your seeds?
Bam!
Dude, You don't need seeds that big.
But I thought we were growing really big plants.
Well, yeah, but you can just use regular seeds. I mean, come to our class March 18th. We got it 6:30 to 9. In fact, Dr. Dabbs, Raiden Labs will be out there. They're going to teach you how to grow big plants, but just with regular seeds.
Oh.
Yeah, come on down. mncannabiscollege.org /grow big. Get your tickets today. You can grow some really big plants with really regular seeds.
They don't need to be the size of quail eggs. Okay, so we had this class taught by Stephen Cornell of Cornell's Urban Agriculture.
Yep.
And it was a wonderful class. It was on living soil. Mm-hmm. And at one point, he made a comment that, his good friend, Clemon Dabney III, uses as a proponent of the cocoa core, soil method. Well, not soil, But he says he thinks that's going in the wrong direction. So how would you respond to that? Like, the living soil class was wonderful and inspiring, and it made me want to grow with living soil. But what's your, why do you think cocoa core is a viable alternative?
I think that the data isn't completely out there yet, but from what data that I've seen is that cocoa core yields more. I think it's easier to manage for the average person. Personally, it's cleaner and less labor intensive. And I think that most large producers are using like a cocoa core based system. I think the living soil is. I think it's whatever you want to grow. I think if you've got your XP points in living soil, because I used to grow with living soil before I switched over to cocoa core. So I've got experience using both, and I just personally like cocoa core better. So yeah, if you look at the research, there's a tendency for, well, it's always the case that you have higher yield. In a living soil, there is a tendency to have a higher amount of terpenes and cannabinoids, but that isn't the case across all cultivars. And even when you start investigating this yield differential, though, if you're looking at it in terms of milligrams per gram of cannabinoids and terpenes, oftentimes the cocoa core becomes higher then. Yes, you may be seeing slightly higher numbers of percentage-wise of cannabinoids and terpenes in a living soil, but since you're yielding so much more, the milligrams per gram of cannabinoids and terpenes are higher in a cocoa core system.
So it's not just yield. You're saying it's potentially
you're getting more bang for your buck cheaper. Like the amount of labor intensiveness of having to make all the soil, on having to maintain it, and your average starting grower, like they don't even know what a soil test is. So it's just like, and in that system, you don't exactly know what you're, how much of what you're adding to your soil, what it's doing, how to, like, if you start seeing nutrient deficiencies or excesses, do they even know what to do in a living soil system to change it and correct it? Whereas if you're in a cocoa core system, you're adding X number of grams of NPK. You know exactly what is in that soil at any given time. I think that the cocoa core system is just easier. It's easier to understand. Yes, you can do soil and it's just as good. Yes, you can do cocoa core and it's just as good. I personally don't think one is better than the other.
Yeah, many ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, I think there's many ways to skin a cat. It's what you're comfortable with. Do you want the living soil? If you do it right, you can keep reusing it.
That's what I was just thinking. He said you could keep using the same living soil for like a decade.
Yeah. So I mean, there's benefits there, but like my cocoa core, I just go put it in my garden. It's not like I'm just throwing it into a landfill. So I just think it's just however the system you want to set up and grow in, and what you want to gain experience with. I think that they produce roughly equivalent products. Like if you look at the data, they're not other than yield. The numbers aren't really statistically significantly different.
Is living soil a cleaner product?
I wouldn't necessarily say cleaner. Because it's like if you're growing, let's say you're saying we'll call it chemical-free methods. Like, so people are worried about this whole salt thing.
Yeah, that's
because like the cocoa core and the salts. What a salt is a pure form of nutrient. It's like how, like if you're mixing this like brown goo together and you don't exactly know what's in it, how does that make it better or purer than something that's literally pure nutrient, pure nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus? So I just think that like when people, when the average person thinks about what a nutrient is, they think compost or manure, which I think is more along the lines of like a living soil idea. Like when I grow hemp, I use goat manure. Like it's, when I grow at home, I'm using salts. So I just think that like, I don't think it makes it any dirtier. I think to add a pure form of nutrients.
Would you be open to a competition?
Oh, I'd love one.
Shots fired. This is a violent episode.
I've seen the final product, and I'm down.
You heard it here first, folks, on the Northern Lights podcast. We're going to try to organize the competition. Living Soil.
Yo, clones. Let's do it. Straight up clones. Same clone. Yeah. Let's do 4. Let's do 4 different clones. Yeah. Living soil versus cocoa.
Are there any other? Because I've heard that, somebody said he's the best cultivator in Minnesota. Are there any other cultivators that you think are like going to be some of the best in the state, or who you'd like to invite to this competition?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's one I would name, but I'm not going to.
Oh. It got a little chilly.
Yeah. I'm going to behave myself. Yeah, we'll just call them genetic stealers.
Oh God!
But yeah, yeah. I'm just down to do a friendly competition with Steven.
I think that'd be fun.
I think so too.
You heard it here first, folks. Well, yeah. Thank you very much for your time. I'm very proud of you.
I've been
seeing you on this grind for the past decade, and I think you're one of the most legendary members of the Minnesota cannabis community.
Thank you.
So thank you for leading the way.
Can I drop in and ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to ask you from like a grower's perspective, if you were growing at home, really not limited by like seed production or whatever, be it, what is it that you look for in a cultivar that you're growing? Is there like a specific terpene profile or a specific growth pattern or something that really it's like, that's sort of the creme de la what's the phrase we use? Creme de la creme of growing.
Creme de la creme, hey, another
I guess
shirt.
so. For me, you're talking about like in a breeding context.
Just like for growing at home.
context.
Like if you were going to be growing at home for something that you plan to personally enjoy, what is it that you're looking for?
I guess for the plant, I personally like orange terps. I'm a sucker for the mimosas, the tangies, the orange cookies, Max.
I had some orange cookies one time. It made me cry.
So yeah, I guess one of the plants has to be an orange strain. Another one is like you got to show off to your friends. So you got to have like your bag appeal one. So we're talking like anything, something crossed with Mac usually, like a Mac Stomp or even Mac V2, a Big Miracle, a Columbia Miracle, a Fanta Black, something where you take it somewhere. And there's no competition. Now, people have that's what in Puerto Rico they call it creepy. It's like the good weed. Like it's hard to find better weed than that, even at a dispensary. So you have to have your bag of Beal cultivar. This is hard to think about because I usually am thinking about making crosses, but yeah. So I definitely would have an orange strain. I'd have a bag appeal strain, and I'd probably round it out with like 2 yielder strains. So that I could gift them to my friends.
Sharing is caring.
So yeah, I guess in those, yeah. So I guess finding your yielders. I guess if I was an at-home grower, I'd find the one with the bag appeal so you can show it off to your friends. I'd find the one with the terpene profile that you like, and then I'd work on finding your yielders, because oftentimes your yielder may not have that terpene profile you like. It may not have all the perfect bag appeal traits, but it could out yield 2.5 times your favorite stuff. And that just makes sure that, you you have enough flower to keep smoking until you get your next harvest.
Right.
So yeah, I personally would find like 2 yielders so that I always have some flower, and then the things that I like are my other 2 plants.
Okay, last parting words. So I just started my home grow journey, and Tanner came and helped us erect the tents, just 2 tents, only 5 plants. But he brought some genetics that Stephen Egan produced, and you also gifted me a few clones, and they're all thriving right now. Like, this shit is beautiful. So yeah,
Ours got a couple
A&D
markers.
Genetics, fuck with it.
We got a couple of markers. We know our stuff's good.
Yeah.
The data says it's good. It is insured.
Is there anything that you want to address that we didn't talk about?
I guess I wouldn't mind talking. I think we talked about. I guess in my notes we talked about what was it like to study cannabis in a less accepting academic environment. I wouldn't mind touching on that a little bit. So when I started my PhD, hemp wasn't yet legal. So we had this memorandum of understanding with DEA, and what that meant was like we could only have 40 plants at any one given time. All of our stuff needed to be kept in an old bank vault. Our lab was basically a minimum security prison. So like
Damn.
keys, key codes, cameras. If I didn't punch in my code fast enough, the police show up. So they took it very serious. Yeah, and then like we could only retain so much biomass, seeds, stalks, flower material, leaf material, whatever. So anything extra would have to be sent to a DEA licensed company to get burned or incinerated. They viewed the DNA as a controlled substance, so we couldn't send DNA even to a different lab outside of the University of Minnesota to study. So luckily, the University of Minnesota has the UMGC, like a genomics center. That's one of the better in the country. So we were fortunate that we had those opportunities here at hand. But
So you could do stuff in house that you wouldn't be allowed to outsource.
exactly, yep. And like one of the nice things is when hemp became legal. Oh, I got one more fun story. So before hemp became legal, we changed our memorandum of understanding with DA so we could go collect some feral cannabis in parks, roadsides, and in private properties. And one of the things that the DA wanted in there was that we had to cart around a gun safe. Yeah, so we literally had this big gun safe. There's funny pictures of us loading this huge gun safe into a U of M vehicle, so we had to rent these vans.
Wait, were there guns present?
No guns. But they wanted like a safe, they wanted like a lockbox environment where we would put the cannabis in just to stop it from escaping back into its natural habitat.
Okay.
If we were to crash or somebody wanted
Stuff that's not
to steal
intoxicating.
Yeah. And that's the hilarious thing is that, most of feral cannabis in Minnesota is well under 0.3. Most of it actually is CBD dominant in chemotype. So it's like, it's just like not oftentimes those ideas from people in power are not based in actual reality or fact.
Not science, but
Not
politics.
science, yeah.
Yeah, but politics.
Politics.
So yeah, we're carting around this gun safe to collect feral cannabis. But then it was wonderful. Once hemp got legalized, we could get a greenhouse. We could keep more than 40 plants at a time. We could just throw away our compost and waste at the end of the greenhouse in the compost pile.
That was 2018, right?
Yeah, 2018. Yeah. So like, and even working with cannabis under the DEA MOU is like, anytime I touched a plant, I had to write about it in physical writing and digitally. I started 8 seeds of XYZ to germinate them in a Petri plate in this exact location. So I'd have to write it down and then I'd have to log it in a computer. So there's just a lot more bookkeeping that I had to do under the DEA. That was non-existent and wonderful in the hemp space. So.
I mean, can you imagine any other doctoral program that has that level of scrutiny?
I don't think it exists.
Yeah, that sounds
maybe some on the medical side with these people studying like cocaine in rats or something. But
or like nuclear power.
Yeah, probably some nuclear fusion and fission. They probably are taken pretty seriously. But yeah, in terms of at the U, is probably one of the most well documented and the level of I guess we could call transparency or documentation was incredible.
Man, we should get Dr. Weibling on here.
Yeah, I think he's got some more stories for you.
Yeah,
we'd love to hear them.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to like talk about before we go?
I think that covers it. I think that, like, you know, if you guys are home growers or if you guys are producers, you know, think about A&D genetics. We've got 8 cultivars. By the end of this week, there'll be 8 cultivars out there on the market and on our website. Hopefully by the end of hopefully by springtime, there'll be another about similar amount. Just think about Retro Bakery if you're thinking about getting some quality edibles, and Doc Dabs. We make a lot of different things. So at Retro, we've got, you know, CBD muscle creams from the Doja products. We're coming out with a chapstick pretty soon. We've got these shots, lemonade, different lemonade shots. We do gummies. Various different chocolate products, Doc Dabs. We got the maple candies and a lot of cool, innovative edible options. So I think, you know, think about Doc Dabs, Retro Bakery, and A&D Genetics next time you're at one of these lovely retailers like the Dabbler Depot.
You're just a whole brand in itself. Like, you're like the Beyonce of cannabis. You know, Beyonce has like all these lines, everything, always coming up with that.
The Beyonce of cannabis.
That's the next shirt for sure.
Big Clem, not the little one. Not to say that you guys look anything like, but you know what I mean, like that. No shade.
I mean, I can see Beyonce a little bit. I can see it. Are you hopeful for the future of Minnesota cannabis, though? Do you think that the OCM will make it right with the legal industry?
I think so. I think that you can hear my voice. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm hopeful and optimistic. The audacity of hope.
Yeah, we have to be hopeful.
Yeah, so I think that there's enough smart and talented and motivated people in our industry, I think, that are going to keep their heels to the fire, that are going to educate them and lobby for, you know, the interests of Minnesotans creating a vibrant and beneficial to all cannabis industry. So I'm hopeful in that regard that we have some of the best people. I think, I'm not to be nationalistic statewide, but I think we have some of the best people, some of the most educated, some of the most motivated businesses. You know, we're operating in the space that's pretty lovely. Like, we can sell edibles in a grocery store,
right,
at a gas station, at a hardware store,
at a workout gym.
I think the workout gym. So I think we're already unique in that aspect nationwide, and I think that environment created, you know, a lot of businesses that are going to help form the OCM and keep them on track to creating a good marketplace here.
I just applied for the social equity director.
Yay.
I don't think I would be surprised if they gave me the chance, because I even closed my letter like, I have irreverent honesty, and that
Love
probably
it.
will disqualify me. But, you know, I'm here for the OCM if they want to win.
Right.
Definitely.
I'm wishing
You are
you
the
the best.
man for the mission. Well, Clem, we could talk to you all day. So before we sign off, could you kind of tell us what's coming down the pipeline? You can share whatever you would like with us. But, I mean, you're amazing, and we would love to know more about what you have in store.
Cool. Yeah. So this week we're releasing 5 more seed varieties, some regular seeds. So we'll have 5 more seed varieties hit the market for A&D Genetics this week. Probably in about 2.5 months, we'll have some feminized seed for those outdoor growers. In terms of Doc Dabs, we're gonna have like one of these little shooter drink. It'll be a strawberry lemonade.
Ooh.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
We're just doing a couple new things. I think there was a hot sauce pretty much on the short term for Dr. Dabs. Another seasoning. We're doing a collab with Animale's Barbecue on. Let's see what else we got. I wrote down a couple things.
So much.
So I didn't miss anything. Hopefully a fruit syrup as well and some hot honey. We're just gonna keep on making some hits and keep on making things that people aren't making, and, you know, keep driving in our own lane.
Finding a
So
niche.
I gotta dig a little deeper.
Oh, Lord.
Do you regret pursuing that director position?
Oh, that's great.
Ooh, that's deep. I don't know. I'm kind of in. That's a good question. Kind of, but at the same time, no. I don't know. I'm waffling right now. kind of yes in that, like, I gave the government everything about me, and like I put in all this time. I put in a significant amount of time working on these different presentations I had to give for them, and just prepping, and like just filling out that dang background check form was like, dang, 8 hours. That was like the whole shift. So in that terms, I've kind of regretted that I put so much time into it. But I think the one thing is that, like, the people now see, like I don't know, maybe I'm more of a conspiratorialist or whatever, but I think that the people don't necessarily always trust their government, and I think that this kind of highlighted, like, potential corruption in the cannabis space, and just showed, like, what kind of, like, they're up to when they're setting up the OCM. So it's like they're not choosing somebody who understands the industry. They just want to put a show they can control and power.
Oh my God!
Ooh.
We have to pause for the batteries.
Maybe we should cut that.
I mean, I just have to say, I have a close friend who's the chair of the psychedelic medicine task force that's happening right now, and she did like a stream of consciousness, and she's talking about how when she left academia, she thought about going into government, but then she sees how these state government employees are so controlled that they can't even like express their honest beliefs and shit. So it's like, what kind of hope do we have for the OCM if they're not gonna like hire like progressive, creative, innovative type people?
I think you answered your question.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. I think that there's still ways to be involved. They got these surveys. I've been filling these out. I think that, you can always contact these people. These people are an email, or you can pop up at their office, or a phone call away. So I think that, like, still informing these people and sharing your ideas with them is still a powerful thing. And I think that, that's as much power I think as you have in this type of system and in this type of environment.
Well, thank you, Clem, so much. We appreciate you, and you're a great friend to the show. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it very much.
Let's sign up for that Grow Big Plants class, and we'll see you there.
Bye.
See you then.
Blessing.